in touch with Laura Ackerson on July the 14th of 2011. You indicated you had tried to contact her by phone. Did you use your cell phone to try to get in touch with her?
Yes.
And do you recall what your cell phone number was at that time?
I believe it was 336.
After you were unable to get up with Ms. Ackerson by phone and you went by her apartment, the following day, July the 15th, did you attempt to get up with her in another way?
I emailed her.
And why did you decide to try to reach her by email?
Because I knew that if she didn't have her phone or she lost it or something, that she would at least be checking her emails.
And did you actually send an email on July the 15th?
What day was that, Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. And did you receive any response from Ms. Ackerson to that email?
No.
Madam, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Mathis, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit Number 2. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit Number 2?
It's an email that I sent to Laura.
And is that an exact copy of the email that you sent her on July 15th of 2011?
Yes.
So at this time, the State would move to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit Number 2.
No, be received.
Ms. Mathis, in terms of that email, can you read that to the jury? What information did you put in the subject line?
You okay?
And that email was sent from your email, is that correct?
Yes.
What is the date and time that it was sent?
7/15/2011, 12:10 p.m.
And who was it sent to?
Laura Ackerson.
And what was the email address where you sent?
forkandspoonlaura@gmail.com.
And was that an email address that you typically corresponded with Laura?
Yes.
Or used to correspond with Laura?
Yes.
And what is the body of the email?
Hey, been trying to call you since yesterday. Let me know that you're okay. Did you lose your phone? A sister's getting worried.
And you've already indicated you didn't receive a response to that email.
Correct.
Did you continue in your efforts to contact Laura?
Yes.
And did you send a second email on July the 17th, that Sunday?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Mathis, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit Number 3. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is State's Exhibit Number 3?
An email that I sent to Laura.
Is that a copy of the email that you sent on July the 17th of 2011, that Sunday?
Yes.
Does that appear to be an exact copy of the email that you sent on that day?
Yes.
Now, at this time, the State will move to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit Number 3.
No, be received.
Ms. Mathis, with regard to State's Exhibit Number 3, what information was provided in the subject line?
Worried.
And to whom was that sent?
To Laura, forkandspoonlaura@gmail.com.
And was that again sent from your email address?
Yes.
And what was the date and time that was sent?
7/17/2011, 1:17 p.m.
And would you read the information contained in that email that you sent?
L, I've been calling you since Tuesday. Sent you an email, went past your house. If I don't hear from you by tomorrow, I'm calling the cops. So please get in contact with me because I'm really worried about you. If you lost your phone, again, my number is 336-308-6747, or just come by my house so that I know you're good. Scaring me, see.
You had indicated in that email on Sunday that you were concerned and that you were, if you didn't hear from her shortly, you were going to see the police. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you receive a response from Laura once you sent that email on the 17th?
No.
And Ms. Mathis, at that time, were you getting very concerned about Laura and her whereabouts?
Yes.
Was it unusual for you not to be able to get up with her or hear from her or see her?
Yes.
Did you try to find out any more information about Laura then?
Yes.
And did you who did you call?
I called Grant's mother, Patsy.
And did she live in the Kinston area?
Yes.
And had you, prior to that date, had you met her or had any contact with Patsy Hayes?
Yes.
And so how did you go about getting up with her?
I called her I called her at the daycare center, I believe. She owns a daycare center in Kinston. And I asked her if she knew if Laura picked up the boys. On Friday, she told me that she would give me a call back, that she would call Grant and give me a call back. She called me back maybe about 10 or 15 minutes later, and she said, I asked her, did you talk to Grant? She said, I forgot, on Friday, he called me and asked me to go past her house because she hadn't come to pick up the boys. And when I hung up with her, I knew that something was wrong, so I went to the police station at that time.
And was that Monday morning when you had that conversation with Patsy Hayes?
Yes.
And when you say that you knew something was wrong, what?
Because she didn't pick up her kids, and I knew that she would not, there was nothing she would be doing that would be more important than her picking up her kids.
And you indicated at that time that you went down to the police station?
Yes.
And what happened when you went to the police station?
I filled out a missing persons report.
Did you provide any photographs or any information to the Kinston detectives?
At that time, I'm not sure. I may have left the photograph, but I'm not positive if I did at that time. But I did give them one eventually.
What kind of information did you provide to the Kinston detectives?
I think I just told them what she looked like, her car, things like that.
Did you relate to the Kinston detective your efforts to get in touch with her when you had last seen her?
Yes.
Did you share with the Kinston detective the situation with regard to the custody of the children, and there was ongoing court proceedings?
I did, but I don't think it was the initial time when I went to the police department. I believe that it was later on when I actually sat down with someone. I'm not exactly sure when, but yes, I did.
Okay. Well, after you went to the police department and filled out the missing persons report and provided some information, did you go to Laura's apartment?
Yes.
And what did you do when you got to Laura's apartment?
I spoke with the property manager there because she knew Laura too, and she knew a little bit about her situation. And I asked her to take me into her apartment just to see, like, if she had been there or whatever, things like that, if anything was out of place or anything. And we went into her apartment. And I wound up speaking to a detective that at her apartment too, at her apartment building.
Okay. So you went to the apartment and were able to be let in by the manager. Did you see anything out of place when you went into her apartment?
No.
Did you obtain any items from her apartment to turn over to the police?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was a few notebooks.
Okay. And where did you get those notebooks from?
They were on her table.
And why did you, in particular, pick up the notebooks and turn those over to the police?
Because I knew that she wrote down everything, so I knew that wherever she was, or whatever was going on, that something would be documented in those notebooks because she wrote everything down.
Did you indicated at some point that you provided a photograph of Laura?
Yes.
Was that a photograph that you yourself had taken or had?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Mathis, I've handed you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is State's Exhibit Number 1?
It's a picture that I took of Laura.
Is that the same photo that you provided to the Kinston Police Department?
Yes.
Is the state will move to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit Number 1?
That be received.
I'd ask that you publish at this time now.
How are you going to publish it?
I'd ask if we could publish it on the screen.
You can. Please. Thank you.
Ms. Mathis, on the screen is State's Exhibit Number 1. You indicated that you had yourself taken this photo.
Yes.
And how long before Laura was murdered did this photo take?
Not long. I really can't say. I don't remember, but it wasn't long.
You had met her in March.
Yeah.
And the events that we're talking about now were in July, so it's been...
Maybe around June sometime.
And was that taken at a local restaurant? Or?
Yes, we were having a like a meet and greet for our business, just trying to really get new customers and things like that. And we were having it at a restaurant, and I took that photo that day.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Envelope, which has been marked State's Exhibit A4. You see that exhibit sticker there?
Yes.
And there are some notebooks. Do you see those which have been marked individually as A4A, A4B, and A4C? Do you
Yeah.
see those?
Yes.
Do you recognize those notebooks?
Yes.
And what are they?
These are the notebooks that I gave to the police.
And are those the notebooks that you recovered from Laura's apartment and turned over to the police?
Yes.
You may.
Ms. Mathis, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A 31. Is that an item that you actually recovered and turned over to the police or not?
No.
Would you open State's Exhibit A 31 up, please? And what does State's Exhibit A 31, what does that appear to be?
A diary, a journal.
And do you recognize the handwriting that's in that journal?
Yes.
And whose handwriting do you recognize that to be?
Laura's.
Ms. Mathis, you indicated that you were concerned that something bad had happened when Laura didn't go to pick up her kids, or when you heard that she had not done that. Did Laura ever talk to you about giving up custody of those boys?
No.
Did she ever talk to you about giving up custody in return for being paid any money?
No.
You've testified earlier about Laura's priority about getting her kids back. In terms of how she lived her life and what you observed with regard to her there in Kinston, what steps did you observe with regard to her taking in order to get those kids back?
Well, she was in school. She was trying to establish these businesses. She had gotten her own place. She was doing everything that she needed to do to get her kids back.
You indicated earlier that you had never met Grant Hayes. Did you ever meet Amanda Hayes?
No.
Did you ever go with Laura on any of the custody exchanges in Wilson?
No.
That's all I have this time.
Do you have questions?
Yes, I believe you indicated you never met Amanda Hayes,
Correct.
that you never met Grant Hayes.
Correct.
So the information that you have all came from both.
Correct.
Laura talked to you a great deal about her fear of Grant Hayes.
Yes.
Tell me some of the things that she told you.
Well, she told me that she did fear for her life. In a nutshell, that was really it. Like, that she was afraid of him.
She also said to you that if anything ever happened to her, that Carolyn would go get Grant.
She's-
the one that did it.
She said if anything ever happens to me, Grant did it.
Did she also talk to you about how Grant used women in general?
I can't say for sure that we had that particular conversation.
She talked to you about how difficult it was to get the truth out of Grant about anything.
I can't say that either.
You mentioned that you were aware that the parenting history of the child custody evaluation techniques.
Yes.
Were you aware that Laura had prepared a parenting history survey?
A parenting history, sir?
Or a history survey for Dr. Calloway?
No.
Did you ever see any documents at all that Laura had prepared for the benefit of Dr. Calloway to assist her in her evaluation?
Not that I can recall.
tell you that Grant had mentally abused her?
Yes.
Tell me what she said about that.
That he would curse at her, talk down to her and things like that.
Did she tell you that he had belittled her?
Yes.
Did she tell you that he had made false accusations of her?
Yes.
Did she tell you that Grant was someone that could not be trusted?
Yes.
Sure.
Lauren was living in the apartment in Heritage Drive in Kinston, when you knew him.
Yes.
Were you aware that at some point in the past, when she knew Grant, that she had to move into the Grant family?
Yes.
And that was because Grant had taken everything she had, wasn't it?
I'm not sure why they were living with her, but she did mention to me at one time that he did take things that she had. So yes, but I'm not sure if that's the reason they were living with his parents.
Did she tell you at some point that when she and Grant had split, that he left her with a brother?
Yes.
All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. You may stand down. Okay, next witness.
State calls James Gordon.
Okay.
Now, may I approach you?
You may. All right, please be sworn.
Please promise that the testimony you give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Sir, could you state your name for the record?
James Courtney.
And how are you employed?
I'm currently employed with the Pittsfield Police Department in Pittsfield, Illinois.
Back in 2011, how were you employed?
I was employed with the Kinston Police Department, Kinston, North Carolina.
How long were you with the Kinston Police Department?
12 years.
And what was your role back in 2011 for the Kinston Police Department?
At the time of this case, I was working general investigations as a detective.
Okay. And what were your duties as a detective with the Kinston Police Department?
With the Kinston Police Department, my duties were we investigated all felonies that were reported to our agency.
Back on July 18th of 2011, were you so sworn and on duty for the Kinston Police Department?
Yes.
And on that day, did you have occasion to investigate a missing persons case involving Laura Ackerson?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of that investigation?
The Sergeant Petrush, which was a sergeant with the patrol ship, it was the case was reported to him by Siobhan Mathis. He, in turn, once he took the report, he contacted Commander Kennedy, which was my immediate supervisor, talked to her about it, and she came to me and asked me if I would look into it, into the missing person report.
When you first got this missing persons case, what's the first thing that you did?
Actually, first thing I did is I just called. There was some numbers listed on there that was that belonged to Laura Ackerson's phone number. First thing I did is I just made a quick phone call to see if I could get an answer. I didn't get any answer, so at that point I had to kind of clear what I was currently working on, and then I went to make contact with the reporting person, which was Siobhan Mathis.
Okay. And what did Siobhan tell you?
Siobhan told me that her and Laura, she began to tell me about how they were involved, that they were business partners, that they communicate on a daily basis, either in person or via emails or text, and that she hadn't heard from her or seen her in several days.
Okay. Did she tell you when the last time that she had seen Laura was?
Yeah, she said the last time she physically saw her was on the 12th.
So at that point, did you begin researching and trying to investigate where Laura went on the 12th?
Yes, Siobhan had told me that, again, about their business and how how it worked and what they did, and then I started from there trying to piece together where she would have been, kind of find out a timeline.
Did Siobhan give you anything when you had this conversation with her?
She did, through this conversation about how their business works and the advertisement, she had told me she had been to the apartment and she got some notebooks, some ledgers, and she turned those over to me.
Eric, have her witness.
You may.
Mr. Gordon, I'll show you what's been marked as States Exhibit A4, including States Exhibit A4A, A4B, and A4C. Do you recognize these items?
I do.
And how is it that you recognize them?
Those were the notebooks that Siobhan turned over to me that she'd gotten them from Laura's apartment.
Your Honor, this time I move States Exhibit A4, including A4A through A4C in there.
Let me understand.
Detective, after you received those notebooks, what's the next thing that you did?
In some of the notebooks, there was some information there where she was going to see some potential clients for her business, and I made contact with those individuals and asked them if if Laura had been there to see them or if they'd had any meetings with her.
Do you recall which individuals or restaurants you contacted?
Yeah, I spoke with a restaurant named Anthony's Italian Restaurant and also one named Pup's Steakhouse, and they were both located in Wilson.
And at that point, you had information that Laura had visited those locations on July 12th, that Tuesday.
Yes.
After you contacted some of these restaurants, did you talk further with Siobhan?
Yeah, I went back. I spoke with some gentlemen that Laura had meetings with, and then I went back again to where Siobhan worked at Health Habit, and just had some follow-up questions as far as if she could tell me information on cell phone, type of cell phone she had, or the carrier, and things like that.
And what did you find out from Siobhan about her cell phone?
She told me that Laura uses a prepaid phone, and that she buys them from the cards from Radio Shack.
Did you find out what Laura's phone number was?
I did.
And what was that number? Detective, I'll just ask you, was it 252-548-1714?
14, right, yes. I knew the lie, I couldn't remember.
And that was Laura's cell phone number?
Yes.
Okay. At some point in your investigation, after you got her cell phone number, what did you do with that?
What I did is, just initially, I checked the phone through a program called Phone Finder, just ran the number, which is basically it's just a public site, and to see if I could come up with what type of carrier that might have.
And after you got the carrier, what did you do with that information?
Once I got the carrier information, I filed a exigent circumstance with the phone company to get her phone records to see when when and where the phone was being used at last.
And this was all on that Monday, July 18th?
Yes.
At some point on that date, on July 18th, did you have a conversation with someone else in the police department about Laura's disappearance?
I did.
And who was that person?
Detective Whitaker.
And could you tell the jury how that came up and what y'all talked about?
Yeah, how that came out is our investigations area is just an open room. It's got several desks. Detective Whitaker was actually sits directly in front of me, and she handles a lot of sexual abuse cases and child abuse and things of that nature. And while I was making phone calls and talking to different people, and I'd mentioned the name Laura Ackerson and Grant Hayes, she overheard me and turned around and said that she's actually just familiar with them, and in fact had a case with them previous in reference to a child abuse case.
Okay, and did she say who made the accusation of child abuse?
Yeah, she told me that Grant Hayes had filed a report stating that Laura had abused the children.
And was that substantiated by the Kinston Police Department?
No, it was not. It was investigated and then found not substantiated.
After you had talked to Detective Whitaker and Siobhan, At some point, did you try to talk to anyone else?
Yes, while looking through these reports of the child abuse and anything else we had on file, I found a number for Grant Hayes, and I called his phone number.
And were you able to speak with him?
Eventually, we called back and forth each other a time or two, but eventually, yeah, we spoke.
At first, did you leave him a message?
Yes.
After you left with that message, did you try to search Laura's apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And could you just describe where Laura's apartment is in Kinston?
It's in a what's called Nantucket Lofts, which was a warehouse that's been refurbished into some small businesses down or up above and some apartments. It's on Heritage Street, right kind of near McDonald's. There's kind of walking distance of everything downtown.
And when you went over to that apartment building, what did you do when you got there?
Basically, what was conducted was just a walk through the apartment just to see if Laura was there.
And what did you see when you walked through the apartment?
Normal, nothing out. Didn't appear to be any signs of struggle. Everything was normal apartment, normal living.
When you went to that apartment, I guess that apartment building, did you ask the apartment manager if there was any video?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
Well, I'd learned that they do have surveillance video inside, and I think the parking area. And then I requested if we could get a copy of the surveillance video from when the last time Siobhan had seen her.
Mayor Congresswood?
You may.
Mr. Airborne, I hand you it's been marked as States Exhibit A12 for this. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is the video that was downloaded from their surveillance equipment.
Your Honor, at this time I move to enter that in States Exhibit A12.
Let A12 be received, and can you clarify exactly when the video purportedly took whatever it is that's shown on there?
Sure. Executive Boardney, that video that you received, was that of a specific time?
Yes.
And what time was that?
The time when I recovered it.
No, the time that the video displays.
At 8:10 in the morning.
Okay. And was that from July 13th?
July 7/13. Yes.
And does that video depict Laura Ackerson?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I move that.
Let me received.
Your Honor, may I publish this?
You may.
Detective Boardney, this video, in the middle of the video, does it say July 13th of 2011?
Yes.
Does it say 8:09 and 53 seconds?
Yes.
And before I play this video, could you describe sort of where we're looking in this apartment building?
Okay. The black door with the window that you can see the light coming through, that's an entry and exit door that actually goes down to stairs that leads you to the outside. If you look.
Can I approach witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. This is the entry and exit door that leads in or out of the apartment downstairs. This here is Laura's apartment.
As I play this video, could you narrate what you see?
Okay. As you see the light come on and you see Laura walk out of the apartment, and this is Laura. She walks in that, and this is walking to the exit door. She's wearing the light-colored capri pants, a shirt. She's got a bag with her with some writing on it. And that's.
And from that video, did you turn your investigation from July 12th of 2011 now to July 13th of 2011?
Yes.
And that's it, again, 8:10 in the morning?
8:10, yes.
And at any point, did you find any video that showed Laura coming back into that apartment building?
No, we did not.
And our line is back a little bit. Do you see Laura with multiple bags?
She's carrying a bag over her shoulders, and then maybe another smaller bag on her arm and some paperwork.
Now, after you had gone over to this apartment complex, at some point did you call Grant Hayes?
Yes.
And when you called Grant Hayes, do you remember what day it was?
On the 18th.
Do you remember what time of day it was?
It was actually 4:24, I believe it was. Is when I spoke with Grant.
Okay, in the afternoon?
Yes.
And do you recall what your number was that you called him from?
I believe it was 252-521-9359.
Was that your cell phone number?
Yes, that would have been a city cell phone.
When you called Grant, what did you ask him?
I just introduced myself, and I explained to him in this that had started this investigation on a missing person, and just asked him if he could give me any assistance, if maybe he's heard from her, or or has any about her whereabouts.
Eric Irish Woods.
You mind?
Detective Gordon, I hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit A13. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is a conversation that I typed that me and Grant had on the phone.
And why do you tell?
Just for record to keep, and as far as this investigation, just to notate what was said during our conversation.
Sure, and so that way you have an accurate copy of what he said
Yes.
2 years later when you're called upon to testify.
Yeah.
What did Grant tell you when you called him?
I spoke with Grant, and again I explained to him why I was calling, and then he had, since initially the initial call, Grant had called me back and left a voicemail, and it was telling me in the voicemail about his mother had called, and that they were concerned about they hadn't seen Laura. But when I spoke with Grant, I basically was asking him when was the last time he had heard from her or talked to her, and he told me that it was out on the 13th that she had came to his apartment in Raleigh.
Okay. And what time did Grant say that Laura had come to his apartment?
He told me it was at around 6:40 p.m.
Did he tell you why she came there?
Yes, she was there to pick up the boys for a midweek a midweek visit.
What else did Grant tell you?
We began to talk, and he was telling me how him and Laura, they communicate through emails and text messages. Said that he'd called her earlier that afternoon, about 3 o'clock, as far as picking up the boys, and that she had told him that she was currently in Wilson on business, and then said she'd contact him later and told him that she was on Glenwood Avenue, but he wasn't sure if she was talking about Wilson or Raleigh.
After Mr. Hayes told you that, what else did he say?
He said once she arrived that she was going to pick up the boys and she was going to take them to a place called Monkey Joe's that they like to go to.
Did he then tell you about the goings-on of his and Laura's custody case?
Yeah.
And did he tell you that they communicated through email, so there's a record of this?
Right. He said that's why they do that communication. That way there is something for both of them. And he said basically it's for protection for both of them.
What time did Grant say that Laura returned with the boys that Wednesday night?
He said she came back to the apartment between 9 and 9:30.
And what else did he tell you?
He said that he didn't believe they went to Monkey Joe's because when the kids came home, that they were sweaty and hadn't eaten.
What did he tell you after that?
Then he said his wife took the boys and took them out to eat,
And where did he say that she had taken the boys to eat?
to Chick-fil-A.
Did you ask Grant what time Laura left his residence?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
He said she left about 10 p.m.
And then what else did Grant Hayes tell you?
Basically, I asked him if he was telling me he had a lot of conversations and a lot of emails between the two of them, and that he wanted to send them to me or email them to me. So I provided him with my email address, and then he told me that he would email them to me, but he'd have to wait till he got to a better spot because he didn't have a good reception.
Okay, so did he tell you had to actually wait till he got closer to a town?
Right. Yes.
And what did you tell him in response?
Well, what he had said was, and this was just through general conversation, we were just talking back and forth. Originally, he had told me he was in Raleigh, and we had talked about him coming to Kinston to sit down and meet with me and talk with me, because I was explaining to him that I just needed to kind of put together a timeline. And he said that he was going to email these conversations, but he'd have to wait till he got a better, closer to a town that he lived out in the boonies.
And what did you respond to him?
To that, when he said that, like I said, I don't know anything about Raleigh, and I told him I didn't think Raleigh had boonies.
And what else did Grant tell you?
Through on the conversation, I asked him if he could tell me what she was wearing that night when she came over. He said that he did remember she had heels on. He don't remember what type of clothing she had on. And then he said, he said I wasn't checking her out.
Did Grant also tell you that when he would email you those conversations from Laura, that he would also be emailing a statement?
Yes.
And so then you asked him what she had on, and he said, I don't remember what clothes she had on, I wasn't checking her out.
Yes.
Did you ask him if he knew what kind of vehicle she was driving?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said he didn't know.
Did you ask him who else was at the house when Laura arrived?
I did.
And what did he respond?
He responded that it was himself, his wife, Lily, and the boys.
And what else did he tell you about that?
Basically he said that when she arrived, that his new wife kept the boys in the other rooms so that they didn't know their mother was there yet.
And what else did he say about that?
And he said the reason for that was they were going to discuss an agreement that they were going to come up with and have signed in reference to the custody of the children.
And who was to keep the boys as part of that?
He said in their agreement that that they were coming up with that the children would be going with Laura or living with Laura.
So he told you that when Laura arrived, his new wife kept the boys in a separate room so the boys didn't know that their mother, Laura, was there?
Yes.
And that they were going to discuss signing an agreement for Laura to keep the boys?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with him about Monkey Joe's at that point?
Yeah, I'd never heard of Monkey Joe's, and that's when we were discussing it was basically a place for children, and he says that they meet there or they go there a lot because he's familiar with the I think the manager or the person who runs the place.
Did he also tell you that they meet there because Laura caused a big scene in the past and accused him of things he didn't do?
Yes. So he said that way it's a public place and try to prevent that from happening.
Did he go on to tell you that the original agreement was that she gets the boys on Friday? And then what else did he tell you about that?
Yeah, he said that he said the original agreement that she was to get the boys on Friday because he and his new wife were going to, and I thought he said New Jersey, to meet her family.
Were you sure of the place that he said where they were going?
No, I know he said to meet her family, but, and I, like I said, during the conversation, I thought he mentioned New Jersey.
And did he tell you, what did he tell you about the custody exchange that was supposed to happen?
He says that they meet in Sheetz gas station in Wilson, which is the halfway point between both of them, for the two of them. And he said that he went there and waited, and Laura never showed up.
Okay, so you're talking to him on Monday, that previous Friday, he'd gone there and Laura had never showed up?
Yes.
Did he then tell you that he contacted his mother and asked her to go by the apartment to see if Laura was there?
Yes, he did. He said that with her not showing up was unlike her, so he said he contacted his mother, Mrs. Hayes, and asked her if she could go by the run by the apartment to see if she was there.
And did he state that, what did he say that his mother had responded?
She runs a daycare, and she said that she had some children and she wasn't able to go by there.
And what else did he tell you? If you could just read.
Okay. After that, then Grant went on. He told me that he had left some pretty nasty messages on Laura's voicemail. We then began just to have some general conversation about their problems they were having, issues through child custody and stuff. He said that he and his new wife were in the process of moving in with their mother in Kinston. And while he was saying that, then during this conversation, again, I was under the impression that he was driving to a new town or coming to see me. Then Grant says, watch him the last time he pulled the cat's tail. So then Grant said, hold on, I need to walk off, that his boys were near him. And I asked Grant if he was going to be able to meet me for the interview, and he stated that he could. He stated in the meantime that he would attempt to continue to send me the emails about him and Laura's conversation from earlier.
How long did you talk to Grant for?
About 35 minutes.
And after you hung up with him, what happened?
I tell you what, it's about 5:15 now. Let's stop it for the evening, folks. It's about 5:15, and we'll stop for the evening. Obviously, you haven't heard it all. Keep an open mind. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant or any matter of controversy. Be careful about your conduct. Just leave your notes in your chair, and the clerk will pick them up and secure them over the evening. Hope you have a good evening. Follow my previous instructions. Be careful not to be exposed to any information at all about the case. Don't discuss it with anybody. Don't let anybody discuss it with you. Keep an open mind. When you come back in the morning, let's see. Where's the sheriff? Sheriff, where you want him to meet you in the morning?
Right here.
Okay. Meet the sheriff out there in the hall that brings you back around, and we'll start at 9:30. So please try to be here before then, and he'll be out there, and he can escort you to the jury room. And when we have all of you here, we'll bring you in, and we'll proceed on with this witness. I hope you have a good evening. See everybody at 9:30 in the morning. Thank you very much.